identify this interval. Here's what's written from low to high. Here's the low note, the upper note, and together we get this. Okay, so let's figure it out. The lower note is an E. The upper note is C sharp. Now, we have a really wide interval here. It's beyond the octave. So you can figure out the interval by doing the typical thing where you label the lower note as 1 and just count all the way up. If you do that, what you're going to find out is that this C sharp here is a 13th above the E, okay? Now, figuring out the quality of the interval when you've got a really wide one like this, it's a little crazy because you start talking about counting half steps and that gets ridiculous. A good way to approach this kind of interval, and by the way, this is a compound interval. When the interval is beyond the octave, that's the term that's used, compound. What we can do to make this simpler is take the higher note and just move it down an octave, displace it down to the lower C sharp here, okay? Now we have this interval. Okay, that's a little more manageable. If we label the E as 1 here and then count up, we're going to find out that the C sharp, the lower octave C sharp, is a 6th above the E. Now, if you count the number of half steps, there are a total of 9 half steps. That's a recipe for a major 6th, okay? That's a little bit easier to manage. The 13th here, this ends up being, it's still a major interval, so it's a major 13th above the low E, and that's what your answer would be. When you have these wide compound intervals, a good way to do it is usually bring it in. Take the upper note and come down, or you can even bring the lower note and come up an octave to make the interval smaller, and then it's a little bit easier to manage. If it's helpful also to know that if you have a 9th, that's a 2nd, okay, just displaced by an octave. A 4th is an 11th, and then in this case, a 6th is a 13th, okay? So I hope that all makes sense. Compound intervals can be a little bit tricky initially because you've got such a wide distance between the notes. And a good rule of thumb is just getting the practice of bringing one of the notes in an octave, the upper note down, or you could do the lower note up as well. Hope that makes sense. I'll see you next time.